There's plenty of evidence over the decades these filthy monsters of the monsoon can be deadly for drivers. But now, a new study confirms what we've always feared. Being caught outside in one can be extremely hazardous to your health.
We're trying to figure out, on the days of the dust storm or immediately after the dust storm, do we see increased risk of, emergency revisits for things like asthma or motor vehicle accidents, congestive heart failure, and for pneumonia?
That's Dr. James Crooks, who led groundbreaking research that studied over 30,000 ER visits over the past 2 decades following dust storms in California, Utah, and right here in Arizona. The study found an expected double-digit percentage jump in car accidents, but it also shows tangible evidence these walls of dust can cause major lung issues, even heart failure, to those at-risk patients.
We just came from a really dry winter, unfortunately, and so that means that the soils are dried out, and so it's a little bit easier to get that dust to move and become part of dust storms when we get the activity in the atmosphere.
Arizona State climatologist Erin Ann Sappel says it won't take much for those dust walls to roll up from the south this season. I mean, check it out. It is super dry out here.
We'll just have to pay attention, make sure everyone's aware of what's going on.
Dr. Crooks wants state health and transportation leaders to pay attention to his study's numbers as well as parents.
The best thing you can do is stay indoors. If you're driving, pull over somewhere safe where no one's going to hit you and you're not going to hit anyone, and just wait it out. These things usually blow over in, an hour-ish, and it's much safer to just avoid being outside in them if you can.